In this video, we're gonna go through the steps on how I created this scene in Blender. So today we're gonna go over how to create anime scene in Blender, and in particular we're gonna be working on this scene from FreeRAM. So let's start over here. First thing that I'm gonna do is add a camera. So Shift A, go to camera, add it over here. And in this camera, I'm gonna go to my viewport display, and over here, background images, I'm gonna add the reference image so we can create the layout. Okay, now I'm gonna go into my camera properties, and now I can see my image. But right now my camera is not pointing towards the ground like it should be. It's like already on the ground and it's pointing under the ground. So let's fix that. I'm gonna add a mesh plane over here and just scale it up for now. And then I'm gonna select this camera and move it behind this plane, something around here. Then I'm gonna go into my camera view and make sure like it lines up properly. For now, this is good enough. Okay, I think we should be further away. And over here in my camera, I'm just going to change the focal length to 90 millimeters. That looks a lot better. And let me just move it back. I'm just roughly placing the camera. There's no right and wrong at this particular stage. You just want to create the layout. Now, just to get an idea of this scene, I'm going to place my 3D cursor over here and I'm going to add a cube. This cube is basically going to be this wall over here that I see. And let me just move it to the side. Now, I want my camera to line up properly. So let me just roughly scale this. Okay, let's say about here. This is good enough. And let me just extend this wall. Now let me align my camera with the reference. I have the ground and I have this wall. I have two reference points, so it should be easier now. I'm just going to click on this lock button over here, then go into my wireframe and let me just select this. Now if I rotate this, yes, I want to line up the side of the walls like this to my reference as best as I can. Okay, this seems good enough. Now you can see we see the wall over here and the ground, and this looks a lot better. And now just for reference, if I add this over here and move it a bit back, you can see it lines up with the window. Let me just, yeah. Now we can see we have everything lining up the way it should be. So now I'm gonna click out of this lock view so we can go out of our view, and our reference is properly lining up just the way we wanted. Now I'm just gonna make it make slightly more sense. So I'm going to scale down this window, maybe about here. And this wall is fine just like that. And maybe scale, move this ground. I think about here is fine. Anything that we can see, we don't really have to worry about. So I'm just keeping it like enough so it looks good in the camera view. Okay, now with this done, for the modeling part, it's very simple. First thing that we notice is that we have these panels on the ground, so I'm gonna add those. Now you can just add them by like an estimate, or you can like just count. For now, I'm just going to scroll until it roughly matches up, like something like this, and I'm just going to move it until it lines up with my reference. Now I can see the lines, they are lining up with my reference. They don't have to perfectly line up, but if you want to, you can move them around to make sure they do line up. Okay, once this is done, I can see that this line is going like that. So if you want, you can slightly tilt your ground just to like match with the reference, something like this. Okay, now I'm going to select all these edges over here and I'm going to press Ctrl B to like bevel them. And again, you can go into wireframe to like just match with your reference. You can also eyeball it, that's completely fine. And then I'm going to just extrude it down like this, right? So now we have something similar to our reference. And over here, I'm just going to bevel this out. So I'm gonna go here and add a bevel modifier. Make sure my scale is applied, Control A, apply scale, and then over here, change the segments to 2 or 3. Okay, right now my bevel, I think it's being clamped. Okay, I think it's fine. Something like this. And let me just clean up this over here and on this side. Okay, now this is nicely done. Same thing, I'm gonna add the bricks over here. I'm gonna go into edit mode, Control R, and just like scroll up until it matches up with my reference. Somewhere about here. And then same thing, vertical loop cuts somewhere around here. Okay. Now I'm just going to alt click on these in edge mode, and I'm just going to bevel this out. Before I bevel, again, make sure you apply the scale so the bevel is equal. So Control B and bevel this something like this, and select this over here. Control B and bevel this too. Now let me reselect these. And I'm just going to extrude them just a bit inside. So basically I have that brick kind of structure. And again, we can add a bevel modifier to it and increase the bevel amount, segments. Also the amount, you can just, whatever you're happy with, something like this, good enough. Okay, now that we have this done, let's add this frame over here. I'm going to select both of these faces over here. I to inset them until they match the window frame in my reference, and then bridge edge loops over here, and that should make it the way it should be. Now some of it is going inside the brick wall, so I'm just going to move it out so we have enough outside the brick wall. And let me just move this so there's no gap and the light doesn't like fall from it. Like if there's a hole, the light, you'll be able to see it in the render too. So we just don't want that. Now this brick shouldn't be visible from the other side because we don't see it. So I'm gonna go into edit mode and just move it up to here so we don't see it. Now if I go back into camera view, I should not see it behind my window. Okay. Now with this done, we pretty much have most of the modeling done. We only need to do the glass shards. Before we do them, we can add some small lighting to this to just make more sense of this scene. So what I'm going to do is go to my world settings and I'm going to choose a color that's similar to my reference. So over here, let me just open my reference here too. Okay. I'm going to use a blue color, a dark blue color for now because this is supposed to be a night scene. So let me just paste it over here. You can like, this is the hex code and you can just like color pick it. Now, if I go into render view, this is what everything looks like. That's fine. Now let's open this. We're gonna keep it EV. I'm gonna turn on ray tracing so we get better render and resolution. I'm gonna set it to 1 to 1. Shadows, I'm gonna increase the ray and the steps. Under fast GI, I'm gonna increase my steps and rays count so it also looks better. Ray count over here, and everything else is fine just the way it is. And down here, I'm gonna make sure my color management is set to standard, and we can for now keep the look as none. You can change it if you want. There's no like right and wrong with this. Just choose whatever looks better. Just to keep it consistent, I'm gonna select all of these lines and just move them on the Y, maybe scale them a bit, because right now this is very big and the rest is not. Even though in the camera view it looks fine, I just want to be more consistent with it. Now we're going to add a sunlight over here, so I'm gonna go to light, sun, add this in, and we're gonna just match the shadows as best as we can to what we see in our reference. So if I go into my render view and if I rotate my shadow, you can see we want the shadow. So for example, the light is coming from the window, the shadow is going in this direction based off our reference. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just gonna line it up as best as I can. And it's not gonna be like 100%, but just close enough is fine. So you can see this is very close. This side of the window is dark. This side is lit up, and then the shadow, it's going in this direction. Okay, this is good enough for now. And for the light color, let's also set it to a blue color. So let me go over here to my light settings, and I'm just going to paste the blue color I'm using. And I'm going to also add one more light over here for the window to make this part a bit brighter. As you can see in the reference, this is supposed to be more lit up. So I'm just going to add a light, point light, just move it up, and let's just change the color to what it's supposed to be. And I'm just going to increase the intensity to whatever looks good. For now, this is fine. And for the sun, I think the default for now, it's fine. Later on, we can increase it if we need to. Maybe something like, okay, that's too much. Okay, good enough. And for this, let me just tone it down. Okay, this is good enough. So basically this area is more lit. And let me just try turning off the shadows. Or let me just keep them. I think it looks better with the shadow. I'm just going to match it up with the other shadow. Okay, something like this. Now if I go into my render view, everything looks fine. We just need to add more break into our model because right now this is too perfect. So that's what we're going to work on next. Now with this done, we can start texturing this, and that's the main part. So I'm going to go into my camera view and I'm going to open this over here. If I go into my material view, I'm going to change this to scene lights and scene worlds. So I see this exactly as I should be seeing it. First thing that we have over here is a wood plank texture, right? So let's add that in. I'm going to go over here, go to my shader editor, and I'm going to click on new. And over here, I'm going to press Ctrl T to add a texture. I'm going to go to open, and I have this texture downloaded from Pexels. You can get a wood texture from anywhere and just use it. Just it needs to match whatever you're trying to make, the wood grain. Okay, I was supposed to add it here. Yeah. So this looked like a good wood, so that's why I'm using it. Now the problem is this is going in this direction. I want it to go in this direction. So let's fix that with the UV. So I'm going to open this over here, change this to UV editor, go into edit mode with all of my UV selected. I'm going to press RX90 and that just rotates my UV pattern. So now it looks a lot better. Now for the wood grain, I think the scale it has right now, it's fine. But if you want it a bit more smaller, you can. Completely up to your own choice. But I think right now, as it is, it looks fine. Okay. Now we're gonna start making this more toony, like toon shape, by reducing the amount of detail it has. So first thing that I'm gonna do is move this back over here. And to make a toon shader, you just add a shader to RGB node. We also need a diffuse BSDF, then a shader to RGB, and then we need a color ramp. And then we can connect this to principal BSDF. And you can already see it looks a lot more cartoonish than it did before. And over here, I'm gonna make sure we strip the color from this so it doesn't look so dark. So I'm gonna add a RGB to be the black and white mode. This one. Oops. Connect this over here. Okay. Then I'm going to add a color ramp after it. And I'm going to flip my color ramp so my lines, they should be darker and the rest should be white. Okay, I think this looks fine. Yes. And you can see the more I slide this in, the more of the wood texture I get. And I'm just gonna go to enough value that looks good to me. So this looks really good. So I'm just going to keep it here. And now if I go into my render view, you can see this looks fine. Let me just move this a bit. So we have, I don't like this big line over here. So I'm just going to move it so we don't see it. Something like this. Okay, now this wood, it looks fine. Now, the second thing that we can see is that the edges of this wood, they seem brighter than the rest. Okay, now to make sure we get the edge highlighted properly, I'm gonna go into edit mode, and first I'm going to apply both of these modifiers because without it we cannot apply the edge highlight properly. So I'm going to apply both of these modifiers first, and then I'm gonna select my edge over here, alt click, alt click. Okay, now if I go over here to my color attributes, I can just name it edge or something. Color is fine, and then I'm gonna click on add. Now I'm gonna go into vertex paint mode, change this to vertex instead of the default, and then over here I'm gonna go to paint, set vertex colors, and now only that edge has white on it. With this done, we basically have our edge data that we can use as highlight. So I'm gonna get my color attribute over here, and I'm going to add a color ramp, sorry, mix color, and I'm going to connect this over here. And now I can view the result if I click on this over here. Okay, now we can see it is white. Uh, let me, if I want to increase the strength, I can. I don't like the method that we're using right now. So instead, I'm going to change this to screen so my white is brighter, something like this. And if I really want to enhance this, I can add a color ramp over here and just increase the slider to get more of this effect over here. Now you can see it's very noticeable, and I can change this to V-spline. So it has a softer like edge fall off. Okay, this looks good so far. Okay, and if I wanna like increase the effect, I can press Control plus over here, and I can go into vertex paint mode again, paint, set vertex color, and now the effect should be more spread out. Oh, I spread it out too much. Okay, let me just select this one too for all these. Okay, now it looks a lot better over here, and if I want to increase the effect, I can. I can also connect this to the factor instead of like over here. And then I have the option to choose my own color that I want for like the highlight of this. The only problem is I still don't see it as much as I would like to see it. So I'm also going to add this in to here and just increase the strength by a bit, like a very small percentage. Add a mix color. And I'm going to choose the same blue that we have. So I mess around here a bit, but just to save time, this is the setup I ended up using. Okay, now this looks a lot more natural, and we have the highlighted effect over here. So the ground is pretty much done. And then for the window frame, we can use the same wood material on this too. And over here, I'm just gonna click on this, open the wood material again. Make sure the UV unwrapping is correct. So let me just unwrap minimum stretch. I'm going to add a mark seam and then unwrap it again over here. And then rotate this until my grain is in the right direction. Maybe scale it a bit until I'm happy with this. Then I'm going to hide this for now and select the rest of this. Make sure the wood grain is going the right direction, which I think it is. Okay, that's fine then. And now we have this over here as well. Let me just unwrap it still. Okay, now we're gonna do the same thing we did earlier. So if you want, you can copy this entire setup thing. Just copy it, and over here, I'm just going to move this back, paste it over here, and just connect it like this. And then again, I can increase or decrease it. So over here, I want the wood to be more apparent. So I'm increasing the black of it. So I see more of the wood thing. And now this looks perfect over here. And for this, if I look at my reference, I don't think we have any highlights. Okay, the only thing here is that we have a division in between. So I'm going to press Ctrl R, add a loop cut, then Ctrl V to bevel it just enough, and then extrude this in like this. Okay, this looks about good enough. If it's too much, we can just scale it down. Change this to medium. Sure, something like this. Now this looks a lot better. Maybe over here, this light, I want to increase the strength of it to make this area like a bit more brighter, like I see in my reference. And I can see the wall on the other side. So let me just select this and select all of these vertices and move them out until I see the wall on the other side as well. So like up to here. And just to add some more breakage, I'm going to add some slight damage over here. Now this looks good. Now just for this brick texture, we're gonna add first a concrete material. If I notice this over here, you can see it has like some sort of noise. In like most of the anime, you have this kind of like noise texture on top of like anything that's made of concrete. So we can easily do that using a noise texture. So we're gonna do the same setup here. So let me just move it here. And we don't really need this right now. So let me connect this. And over here as the starting point, I'm going to use my noise texture. I'm going to connect the factor over here. Press Ctrl T so I can add these nodes over here. And then I'm gonna go into edit mode, use Smart UV project. That should be fine for this example. And let's just use UV. Okay. Now over here, I want the detail to be 12. I want the roughness to be like very high too. So you can see we get this kind of concrete look. And then for the scale, let's make it 11. Again, I was messing around here with the values, but this is what I ended up using. And now with everything connected over here, if I go to this, let's see how this looks. Okay, this looks good. The only problem is the black is too black, so I'm going to select this, press backspace. So we refresh it. For the concrete material to be more pronounced, I want the white to be more like something that we look at. Sure, something like this. And the black, I'll just make it slightly gray so it's not so overpowering. Something like this. You can see now this looks very concrete kind of material. And if we look at our reference, we don't really see a lot of highlight here, but you can see, you can like clearly see the edges. So just for the sake of adding it, I'm going to also add highlight over here. We don't really have to because we don't really see it here, but if you want to make it pop, that's like an extra you can add. And it's going to be like the same method we did on the wood panels here. The only problem is right now this side it's way too dark, like almost black. So I'm going to duplicate my point light and move it over here. Sorry, that wasn't the point light, this point light, and move it on the inside of the wall. And here I'm going to decrease its strength to very small amount and maybe increase the radius. I don't want it to cast any shadow, so I turned it off. Okay, maybe about 9. I think that's good enough. We can see this side, but it's not too overpowering. Now I went and added in the highlights just like we did for the pillars and just continued messing around with lights and shaders a bit until I was happy. I'm just gonna speed up the process. I'm just like messing around with like values just to make it match more with the reference. So now the only thing remaining are these glass shards. So we're gonna model them using simple plane and just trying to get the shape as best as we can close to the reference. I'm gonna speed this up a bit, but it's basically just I'm adding a plane and I'm going to add some vertices, move them around to match the shape as best as I can. Okay, so this part of the video did not record well, so I'm going to re-record it and just explain the shader I did. It's the same concept as we did with the rest of the scene, but with glass we needed to add some reflection, so I used some extra steps over here. So just to break it down, let me open this shader over here and we're gonna go step by step. I'm gonna go into material view and we're gonna start off with our first node, which is layer weight. So I'm using the first input, which is our layer weight, and I'm going to use it color ramp set to constant to basically get only the rim or the edges highlighted. Second thing we're using is the reflection tab over here, and if I, like here it just looks a bunch of colors, but if I add this over to the color ramp, it basically just gives us the reflection of our glass, right? And this won't work properly until and unless you add the bevel modifier. Without bevel, it does not give you a good result. With bevel, it gives you a more believable reflection, right? Because it is based off of the topology. So you need to make sure that this bevel modifier is on and you have like enough segments. So I'm using 4. And now with this edit, I'm going to add both of these shaders together. So you can see this is the rim, this is what my reflection is. And after I add them, I get something like this. And I'm going to uh, make this go over with this mixed color node set to screen, and I have my 2 colors set. And then this is the input that's gonna go under my principal BSDF. This is the same setup, shader to RGB, color ramp, and then principal BSDF, and I get this look. Then over here for the reflection part, I'm going to branch it off over here with another color ramp node, and you can see the dark part, it's not really exactly black. I just moved it more to gray. Again, I just experimented with the values that I like. Even the white part is not pure white, you can see it's slightly grayish. And then over here I set my color ramp values and I used that for my emission node input. You don't have to do this, but I just liked the result that it gave. And when I click on principal BSDF, now I can see I have more like a glass kind of look, right? And I'm using the alpha channel for this too. Oh, so this thing is the input for alpha channel, and this I'm getting from my color ramp, and I'm using the colors. And for some of the shards, because of the size, the reflection, I had to use a different value for it. So whenever I needed a different version, I just click on this 2 button. So if I click something here, you can see it's using a different material. I just click on the number and I mess around with the values until I'm happy with it. So some are using a slightly different value than others, but I just made sure all of them looked good enough. And once I was happy with the setup, then we move on to the next step. Now once I'm done with all the material setup, now is the time that we render it. If you see something off, you can re-render it, mess around with things a bit. But at this point, I'm just gonna render it out and see what we get. So normally I just use Photoshop for color correction or After Effects if it's a video, but you can choose whatever. And there's no like an exact science to it. I just use camera raw filter for the most part, and I'm just going to mess around with the lighting until I think everything looks good. So it's an anime scene from our reference. It's very washed out, so I'm going to increase the exposure. Contrast, I'm going to decrease it. Shadows, let me just see. Maybe a bit darker is fine. And over here for the color, I'm just going to make it more like bluish. And same for the tint, I'm just gonna go for a more night kind of feel, something like this. It's up to you if you want to go for vibrance, but I want to keep it more like less saturated. And then over here texture, I usually like bring it up so the wall texture will become more enhanced. Okay, I think clarity is also good. And then it's up to you if you want to use a vignette. I think usually it looks good, so I'm just going to add it just a bit. Maybe not this one. I'm just going to turn this back to 0. And under my curves, I'm just going to mess around with this just a tiny bit. Again, there's no like exact science. I'm just messing around with this. And over here under yeah, optics, I'm going to use this vignette, something like this, and I'm going to click OK. And now you can like undo and redo to see if you like the effect or not. If you want to tweak it or not, that's up to you. I could have tweaked the glass shader on this one too a bit, but I think for now this is fine. And same thing over here. If I do want to tweak it, let me just undo this. And usually you just convert this to a smart object, and then you add your camera raw filter on top of that. Now I do have to redo all of the steps I just did. And now once it is done, I can go right click, relink to file. And it will update the render automatically. And you can do as many like renditions as you want until you're happy with the result. I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, you can always just leave a comment down below and let me know if you have something that you would like me to show you how to make.